Brunelle is going to be our next speaker. She's talking about running music from South Africa to North America. Welcome.
Go ahead, thank you. Somehow I've managed to work my entire life in music. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm not a musician. I work in the business side of things. And in fact, when I did a PechaKucha talk about 12 years ago, the talk was about the secret business of Cape Town, South Africa. We'll get to that, but it all has to do with music. I was born and raised in Minnesota. That is a state full of music. You have Prince, you have 30 orchestras in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. 30, which apparently is not normal. I thought that was normal. But I was surrounded not only with the Winter Wonderland, with music, people who not only created music, but the people who organized it so the musicians could do what they do. Then I met a guy with an accent. And we married and moved to Cape Town, South Africa, where I lived for 17 years. And when I moved there, I thought, well, I need to work in music. What am I going to do? And I applied for a job, and I ended up working in opera. We moved to a place called Hout Bay, which is just outside of Cape Town, and a beautiful location, but also a place where in South Africa, you've got your richest and your poorest literally working and living back to back. Hout Bay was like that. We had 40,000 people in a township, and the wealthiest man living about a block away. This is the group that I worked with. These are South African opera singers. They are Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, Pedi, Afrikaans. They're not Italian. They are incredible people who have, because they learn so many languages and are born with language in their system, they know how to take on those beautiful languages of opera. They know how to express the emotion in opera. And as you can see from these pictures, they were just wonderful people to work with. One thing I learned about opera down there is, you can't assume who can create music. Why not have a Zulu tenor just kill an Italian aria while singing on a stage in Paris? Why not? And so I got to know these wonderful people, and I got to manage the business of an opera company in South Africa. The thing that was interesting is that because you don't have to go to a music school necessarily, your instrument is right here. You learned it in the church and you learned it in the school. So there wasn't the barrier to entry with the very expensive lessons. And the singers came together and ended up having a very rare ability to sell opera, and what I learned is selling it on the international stage. Now, most of them came from the townships. That mountain you see in the background, that's the same mountain on the other side that had that pretty picture of Cape Town. So this is a country of desperate poverty, but this is also a country with wonderful singers who then could make a living and a career by singing opera. We were able to bring the company overseas on 79 different tours. They sang Porgy and Bess, they sang Carmen, they sang all sorts of things, everywhere from Dubai to Buenos Aires to Korea, and to be part of the organization that created that gave them the structure to write an opera about Nelson Mandela that toured 27 performances in the UK. It's an honor that I just felt, you know what, I'm very lucky to be able to do this. After 17 years there, my family and I decided it was time to move back to America. And we thought, well, where has the best creamies? Oh no, we didn't. Luckily, we came to the incredible state of Vermont, and I thought, well, what am I going to do here? Music. Not opera, though, orchestras. So instead of now working with people who have this as their instrument, they have that. And it could be like this, or this, or this. But we came to Burlington. See something familiar? The water and mountains. I'm trying to get that in my life going forward. But we moved to Burlington and then also moved out to the islands. We've just recently moved out to Grand Island. And I notice incredibly how rural it is. And whereas in South Africa, you've got challenges of rioting, you have a lot of crime, violence, a lot of tough things to get through for you to drive through, literally, get to your work. Here, you just have to drive really far to get to your job. So that was something new for me to learn, is the amount of people that love the music, people that just show up for musicians here. Doesn't matter what kind of music it is, they show up. And I've learned here, whereas in South Africa, it didn't matter who created the music. Here I've learned how much you have to work to be a musician. Again, I'm not that musician, but the people in the orchestra I work with, they're in 2 other orchestras, and they teach 10 students, and they might work at Costco. So it's an incredible plethora of time and commitment, but for those musicians who are out there in the audience, you know if you've got that talent and you know if you've got that drive, that you've just got to create the magnificent sound that you can. I look at some of these pictures and think, how fortunate. It's great to know that, you know what, even if you can't create the music, to be able to put the money behind it, the structure behind it, to get those brass musicians showing kids the difference between a French horn and a trombone and why it's cool. That's an incredibly, it's a very deep and humble feeling to know that you get to be part of that machine. So also the fact that we get to play outside here and have fireworks is a pretty amazing thing. But to see the audience that comes to live music, whether that was opera in South Africa or an orchestra in Vermont, when I see the smiles and when I see people applaud, and sometimes they cry because of the sheer beauty of the sound, I think I've just been too fortunate. So for those of you out there who make music, thank you. Keep making music. We'll keep showing up. Thank you.